Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hello viewers, once again we welcome you to the program My Time Has Come. Tonight we'll be discussing a very crucial subject about God. Who is God? And how does He expect us as His people to relate to Him? We all know that the best way of knowing, or the first way means to know someone, is to know the person by name. And most of the time, we claim to know God, but we don't know His name. And how can you know the name of God? We need to, first of all, trace the name of God to the original people that God manifested Himself to. And what name did God give them that by this name He should be known? And we can identify this with the Israelite, the original Israelite. How did they know God? And the people that we can learn this from are the Jews, who God manifested Himself to and chose them as His own peculiar people, and how they knew God by name and by different title. Today we have an authority, a Jewish rabbi, a Persian Jew, who has studied extensively in the subject we're going to discuss today. And I believe that you will enjoy this program. Rabbi Altaf, you are welcome once again.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for coming today.
Good to be
I
here.
believe the viewers are so much excited to listen to the level, the dimension of your knowledge. There is no doubt about your knowledge. I mean, whatever you say is not something that everybody is saying out there. That makes you different.
Yes.
And one peculiar thing about you is that you talk less, but all your words are accurate. You gave different prophecies in the time past concerning Britain, concerning different events that have taken place across the nations of the earth, and all these things came to pass accordingly. I know you don't want to be known as a prophet because you sit in a
Heavy title.
the office of the priest, Kohanim.
Yes.
So, but I really admire you and I have a lot of respect for you.
Thank you.
Today we shall discuss
Praises to the God of Israel.
and all glory
For
be to His
creation.
name.
Yes.
Good. I want us to discuss today. Sorry, I did not give you details of today's interview. I was thinking we'd discuss something different, but I just changed my subject.
Sure.
It's something that myself I want to learn from. So for my personal benefit and also for the benefit of my audience.
I'm always ready. Anytime.
Yeah, I want us to discuss this great subject, the concept of God. You know, I realize that by human nature, we are born to worship something.
Yes.
If you go to the end of the world, there are people there who, by all means, make something to be
Yes.
God and they worship.
That's right.
So human nature is such that we always want something to worship. But we are privileged to know the creator of this whole world who placed us here,
Yes.
that we must worship Him.
Correct.
And we are not called to believe,
Right.
because Judaism is not belief, it's knowledge.
Action.
Action, knowledge.
Deeds.
Knowledge. Because belief means you don't know.
Right.
But God said, know that I brought you out from Egypt. Know
Correct.
that I am your God.
Correct.
So Judaism is all about knowledge.
That's right.
Know.
Knowledge and action of the commandments.
Knowledge and action.
That's
and
right.
practicing.
Yes.
So we want to know something. We want to know God in a different dimension.
Right.
Not by the way people perceive God in our European kind of style.
Right.
We want to go back to the book, Torah.
Right.
Who is God? What are his attributes? What is his name?
Well, I mean, I like to usually take God out of the box that people have placed him into.
Yeah.
And I like to say that let's see what God has to say about that, who he is. You know, we noticed that when our ancestors, the children of Israel, were brought out from Egypt, God could have made any statement at that point.
Yeah.
He could have said, I'm the one who created the universe. He could have said something else, that I control the world. He could have said, I control your destinies, your life. He didn't make any of those statements. In fact, the statement he made was very, very instructional. He makes a statement that I am Yahweh. Exodus chapter 20 verse 2, I am Yahweh.
Yahweh.
And then he says, I'm the God who brought you out of Egypt. So he wants us to remember who freed us from our bondage and slavery, and who frees us today from our bondage and slavery, spiritually and physically. So we remember our God as a God who is a savior to us, somebody who frees us. So God is no longer just a concept. Something out there, you know, some force. You know how scientists like to say, oh, it's, you know, what is it? What is God? We don't know. We can't perceive it. So therefore, they can't understand what is that force out there. They like to give it a name, but they don't want to give it a name God.
It's a high power. In psychology.
Some power.
Yeah.
So they don't know. So therefore, you see, this is the problem, is that God wanted us to have a relationship with him. God wanted us to see the things he's done for us. So that when we go back to do the commandments, the mitzvahs, then we are doing the in appreciation of who God is, so that we can remain close to him. Therefore, God doesn't say to us, here is a creed. God doesn't say, just do Shema Yisrael, that's the creed, you must do that, that's it, you know me now. No, God doesn't say, believe in me. Because Satan believes in God too.
Yeah.
But that belief doesn't make you his child.
No.
So, I mean, Satan is created by God. So therefore, God is not something that we can even begin to grasp. God is beyond our understanding. Three-dimensional, maybe even four-dimensional, maybe even six-dimensional. We will never understand God completely. Because if we did, then we are God.
Yeah, God.
Right?
We can't even define him. We may try to define him to totality.
We can only know a finite amount about God, about the mind of God. Unless God shows us, we will not know even that about him. We only know that finite amount because he shows us. If he didn't show us, we will be clueless about who God really is. So God tells us, I'm the God who freed you from the slavery and the bondage and brought you out of the bondage, house of bondage. So we understand that God is a loving God, that he values and he loves his children. All that come to him, he loves them. He's a loving God. But he's also chastising as well when we disobey. So we understand that God has attributes which are defined in the book of Exodus chapter 34. God defines his 13 attributes. He's loving, he's merciful, he's long-suffering. All the things that we should be as human beings, which we mostly are not. You know, we try, but we always fall short of that.
My concern is that which is my key question to you, because we have different gods today, and I believe that it is very important that we distinguish or we redefine the term God, because about 4 or 5 years ago, there was an issue in London here where a cow, the Hindus' cow, was sick. They considered this cow to be their god, and the cow has got some kind of disease. So the government want the cow to be killed. So if this religion believe that their God is a cow, and the God is sick, so but they call it God. So we want to find out who is worthy to be called God, the term God. And can you imagine the Almighty God who holds this universe without any pillar, who extends the curtains by his power? Can you imagine Almighty God being sick?
Not really.
I mean, that human have to take decision as to whether he should live or die. So, but this group of religion believe that this cow is their God and they worship God. So I want you, with your knowledge, to define who is God and who can we call God. So that if you say stone is your God, people will understand whether that thing is worthy to be God. I believe that, in my understanding, I believe that anything that derives existence from one source is not worthy to be God.
Right.
Because God is self-existence.
Right.
God resides within himself.
God always is.
He's
Yeah,
always
always
is.
is, yes.
He was before the time began.
That's right.
And he created time.
Well, you brought up an interesting point regarding who is God.
Yeah.
Because today, if you speak to different peoples, different human beings, Muslims, they'll say Allah is God. Speak to Hindus, they'll say Krishna or Brahma or maybe, different gods that they worship.
Yeah.
Like Ganesh, they'll call them gods.
True.
There are many gods. And if you then speak to some other people, like Christians will, have their beliefs of God. Jews have their beliefs of God as well, who is God. What's relevant is we need to then probably put a exclamation mark, because if for instance a Hindu said that praise be God, and we can't all say praise be God at the same time, because he may be giving praise to a statue or an idol, a representation of his God. Therefore we've got to be very careful of the language, syntax. Therefore this is why I think this was one of the issues that caused the Jews in the ancient times, in the first century temple, to hide the name of God. They put a rabbinic ban on it. So no longer they would call God by the four-letter Yud-He-Wah-He acronym, which came to be known in the Jews as Yehovah or Yahweh. And so therefore, that's what happened in Israel. They hid God, and they wanted to call him Hashem, Adonai, etc. But they wanted to avoid the nations hating, because the nations were worshipping many different gods.
Things.
And that was the problem, because they might say Yahweh said this, and the nations will say, yeah, Yahweh is my God as well, but he's a statue. That was the problem.
So they can idolize Almighty God.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like you talked about the pictures, people can put pictures in their homes of what they believe to be God, and that also can be a bad sign onto God, because He doesn't want us to put pictures of representations of Him, are not permitted.
So we are not permitted to make any imagery.
No images of Him.
No statue, no picture on the wall.
No, we
We
cannot do that, because if we do that, then we break the commandment. And we are also told we have to obey Him in certain ways that the Torah commands us. So I think what we find is that the overall defining factor that we understand, Jews, who is God, the one who chose us as a people, the one who saved us, the one who called out our father Abraham, and gave him his contracts. That's who we understand who is God. So therefore, it's very to us. The question is more subjective and objective. But to somebody else, it may be different answers to that question. If you sit down here with a Muslim, he may give you different answers to that question. Or a Hindu, he'll give you different answers. Or a Chinese, for that matter. But there is one thing known. Every nation knows there is only one God.
One God.
Every nation knows, including the Hindus, including the Chinese. They have a temple in Beijing called the Temple of Shangdi. Shangdi is a Chinese name for God. And they said this is the temple of the overall God, the one creator that created everybody. So there is a recognition of Him. Although
oneness of God.
There is a recognition of oneness of God. But then you have these people's own opinions of how they should worship. So I think this becomes relative in our time of who is God to each individual person. To us, what the Torah tells us is that there is only one God, and He is Yahweh. We have to obey Him.
In the book of Exodus, God made it clear, and I believe that as a Jew, this is the first thing you must know when you are born. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, your Lord, the Lord your God is one Lord.
You see, in the Muslim side, Islamic side, when the child is born, they do the azan into the child's ear. Well, relatively, we are commanded to do something similar, although Muslims took it from us. Because we do the 8th-day circumcision. Muslims do the circumcision as well, but we do the Shema Israel instead. So therefore, when a baby is born, we do certain recitations of prayers that are supposed to be good for the family, give thanks to God, etc. A lot of the nations then adopted those things. They adopted and reinvented and reapplied it in their national systems. But really, the whole thing stems back from the God of Israel. Who is God? What is He asking us? What is our purpose in life? we are to obey God, we are to serve Him. That's our purpose in life. And each person has to translate that into for himself and obey the God of Israel. This is why God had a priesthood. The priesthood's duty in Israel was to lead people to the God of Israel. Difficult areas, of halakha, they were supposed to guide people in that. And so they became the representatives of God. And you find in many other religions they have priesthoods. Hindus have their priesthood. Muslims have their imams. Christians have, their clergy as well. Different types of clergy who guide people. So therefore, a lot of people have taken upon themselves what we actually had originally.
I say, I believe that to know somebody, the first thing you must know is about his name. In many passages in the Bible, God made it clear about specific names. Even in the book of Exodus 6, the Lord said to Moses that I am your God. I show myself to Abraham by the name El Shaddai, but I'm coming to Egypt by another name which has not yet been revealed. There are many places that the Bible refers to God under different names. And in my understanding, in every dispensation, God reveals himself or God manifests himself to people under specific names. What is the name of God? What is the real? We know of El Shaddai, we know of Yahweh, like in the Bible, Bereshit, Barak, Elohim. So that's the first time we heard the name of God.
Elohim, yes.
So the
The
first
mighty
time,
powers.
exactly. So what name can we give God? When Moses met God upon the mountains, God said, I'm sending you to Egypt,
Children of Israel.
to the children of Israel. Tell them that you met the God of your forefathers, that I am coming to deliver them.
Yes.
And Moses said, if I go
Yes.
to Pharaoh and he asked me,
Yes.
who sent you? That was a very intelligent question from Moses. What name should I tell Pharaoh that sent me?
Well, first he referred to the children of Israel. Why would they believe me?
Yeah.
Why would they believe that I am sent by you?
By you.
What do I tell
How
them?
do I tell them?
Yes.
What is your name? Because your name carry power.
Yes.
Sometimes when my kids are playing, I say, go and tell them the daddy say, everybody's shaking. So that is me.
Yes.
So Moses wants a particular name because this is authority versus authority. He's going to Egypt, and Pharaoh was a tyrant, the most powerful.
Yes.
In those days, Egypt was bigger than America, was the most powerful nation.
Very powerful. Yeah.
So this is, you are not just dealing with a manager of an organization, you are dealing with someone who is synonymous to God in those
very
days.
authoritative, yeah.
So Moses wants to know, who should I say, or what name should I give in Egypt?
Right.
So why is name important? So this brings me to my question to you, that what is God's name?
Right. That subject's been debated. The Bible gives us the answer in the Torah what his name is, because in Exodus 3:15 he says, tell them that the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, tells them that Yahweh has sent you, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Yud-Heh-Wah-Heh. So we understand.
But in that Exodus, God said, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh.
Yeah. So that we understand as a Kabbalistic term.
Okay.
And so the Christian Bible translators, they translate it as I am that I am. We translate it as slightly differently. We if you leave it in the Hebrew, Ahaya, Asher Ahaya, we see it as a Kabbalistic representation of God. The Aleph, the Aleph is there, which is the source of all the universe. So we see it as a source of all the universe.
The foundation of
That's right,
everything.
the foundation of everything. This is the Father in heaven. So this is why that is not literally the name. Although some people contend, you will hear out there, some people say, oh no, this is the name, and the Jews modified the Bible and they removed the real name Ahaya or Ehyeh and they put Yahweh in there. That's all not true. Because this is the Kabbalistic representation of what God is, and he gives his name as Yud-Heh-Wah-Heh, the 4 sacred letters. And so we understand from the Kabbalistic interpretation that God is the source of everything that we know.
Okay.
The He in there, of course, representation of the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, the power of God. So we understand the different characters in light of Yud, in the ancient terminology, in the ancient Hebrew, biblical Hebrew, was a term for the eye. So it meant that he was the all-seeing eye. He was the one who gave light, and he would remove darkness. So therefore, what came to be known as the all-seeing eye, it actually came from the letter Yud. It's not occultic, it actually came from the ancient Hebrew. So this is how we try to understand who we serve.
Okay.
But the name itself is not just a name. What we understand behind a name is what we call the majesty of the name.
The majesty of the name.
Right. So for instance, if you said to me that you represent Theresa May, you work for her, the Prime Minister of Great Britain,
Yeah.
or if you said to me that most people know the Queen over here, that you said you're a representative of the Queen, everybody would then suddenly be all prim and proper. Oh, the Queen.
Yeah.
Everybody's heard of the Queen. So it's the majesty of the name.
Yeah.
It's not what the Queen's name is. Her name is Elizabeth. It's not that her name is Queen Elizabeth. It's what her name represents.
And the power behind
The power behind it, the honor, the majesty. Same way, our God's name, Yud-Heh-Wah-Heh, it represents the majesty and the renown. And we read about the renowned mighty men of old. It says the mighty men of old. In other words, who were these men? They had a special name. So name in the ancient Hebrew means character. The fame of that character, the majesty of that character. So therefore, every time our God uses His name, it's not just referring to 4 Hebrew letters. It's referring to His might, His character, His deeds and actions that He did with us in the wilderness when He brought us out of Egypt, before that with our father Abraham, and after that when He punished us subsequently and then brought us back from Babylon. Everything is related to His majesty, His might. That's what His name represents. So we understand, we don't just think, oh, it's like, somebody called John. John, come here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
No, John may not have nothing behind his name. John may just be somebody's father, somebody's son. But in God's case, it's not like that. God has no beginning, no end, self-existent. So it's His majesty. We understand when God says this, it's all about His majesty. All about His character, His renown. He wants us to remember what He did in the past. We will never forget that.
I see. Good. So, for example, in some part of African countries or in some part of the world, like Britain, English, we say God.
Yes.
In other languages, like for example, in my African language, my dialect,
Yes.
my forefathers call Him Mauga Osoborisa, Mauga Okitikata.
Right.
When you say something like this, fear grips you.
Right.
It's not just by saying God.
Right.
You know that they've gone beyond ordinary.
Yes.
I believe that concept must be applied now, that the moment you mention certain name, everybody is shaking. Like Igbos in Nigeria, the way they describe God, you know that this is not for president, this is not for a prime minister.
Right.
So it's the same kind of idea I want us to have, I want my viewers to have, because someone will be talking and say, oh God.
Yes. Right.
Oh.
They lost the respect of the
They
name.
lost the respect.
Yeah.
But today, even Jews, the Orthodox Jews, they can't even to write G-O-D. They say, no, their hands is not worthy.
That's right.
So G-D.
That's right. Yes.
So that fear, that reference must be there.
Yes.
So how can we let people who claim to be followers, who claim to be children of God, come to this knowledge and understanding that you are dealing with someone who holds this whole world, someone who is monitoring everything day by day, someone who knows even before the leaf of a tree falls,
Right.
he supervises the world.
Yes.
You know, the other day, there was a storm in Indian Ocean.
Right.
Look at how God just caused a great storm in Japan. One day, the rich and the poor became equal.
Right.
You know, in the book of Jeremiah, chapter number 5, verse 22, Look at how God says, He said, don't you fear me? Will you not tremble in my presence? He said, I am He who used the sand as a perpetual boundary and a decree for the sea,
Right.
that the sea is not permitted to cross over.
Right. And it's
So
the same
God,
today.
yeah. So God can decide to remove His boundary, which happened in the Indian Ocean, and the whole nation was swept away. So we are dealing, when we talk of God, God expects us to fear Him. It's
Well,
one
we
key.
see here, you got to look back at the Christian tradition.
Yeah.
You know, early Christians did have a lot of fear of God, but later Christianity is kind of evolved, and the fear is somewhat lost.
Yeah.
So I think that fear needs to be put back into people's hearts, that you're dealing with God and not just with anybody outside on the street. You know, we fear God.
Mhm.
We know everything we do, we understand who God is. We
Mm.
understand His character, His fame. So we don't want to do anything that's going to offend God.
Mhm.
But I think a lot of other people don't look at that. You know, there's a race of people,
Mhm.
radical Muslims, who go to kill people in their God's name.
Mhm.
So again, different people act differently.
Yeah.
They fear their God, but they don't fear killing somebody. Although we fear God, not only we fear Him,
Mhm.
but we also fear killing somebody because you're not allowed to do that.
No,
So-
because that is part of His commandment.
That's
You're not
right.
permitted to take life.
Thou shalt
Kill.
not murder. So we're not allowed to do that. Therefore, you know, human life is valuable
Mm.
to us, but more so, who gave us that life? So to us, God is not just God. He's much, much bigger than that.
Yeah.
This is why, you know, we stand in awe of Him. You know, why do I wear my hat?
Mhm.
In awe of the God of Israel.
Yeah, can you talk about that? Why do you wear? It's
I-
a tradition of Jews.
I wear my hat because in awe of God, because I'm directly under Him.
Mhm.
So if I took my hat off, and then it would be like I'm naked to God.
Mhm.
So I have to always cover my head in reverence to God.
To God.
Wherever I go, in
You
reverence
need
to
to cover
God,
yourself.
I have to cover myself so that I don't bring disrespect to His name. That to me is serving the Most High.
So it's 100% consciousness of God.
Always.
Because at every moment of your life,
Every
you are
time.
in the presence of God.
Always have to be in His presence and know that He's watching
He's
and
watching over you.
and
He's
recording everything. Better than the CIA and the NSA. So, you know, I have to know that. So therefore, I'm going to be judged one day for it.
Mm.
So therefore, I have to be in His presence all the time and know how I represent Him to the people.
Mm.
So therefore, anything I do, that will bring a bad reputation to Him.
Mm.
So I have to be conscious of that.
You know, Rabbi, my concern is today, it's common in Christendom, many have taken God as their classmate. Like they have some college mate,
Right.
you know, they refer to God as their university course mate.
Right.
And that fear of God is going away as it were in the time past.
Right.
Those days, people fear God. People can even swear today in the name of God. They have committed a crime. They'll say, I swear.
Yeah. Yes.
Why is this fear? In those days, God always show up and see instant judgment. So the world has become a place that people have no fear again of God of
Because
Israel.
of liberalization. Because of liberalization and humanism has removed the fear of God. Because you see, we live in a society with a lot of people who don't believe in God.
Mm.
They don't believe He exists. So we have then the liberals who will say, well, don't say something in front of us, in front of other people, it offends them. So it's all become politically correct.
Mm.
You know, you say something is maybe not politically correct.
Mm.
So that has caused the fear of God and the reverence of God to be removed.
I see.
But it has to be taught to people. People have to be taught that you know, this is how you fear and revere God.
So if a Nigerian calls God as Oluwa, Chineke,
Right.
a Ghanaian calls God Onyami, Mao, a Frenchman, Chios, a Jew calls God Elohim, Adonai. Is it the same power, the same?
No. No.
What? Okay.
I don't.
Why?
I
Why
don't.
not?
I don't believe so, because the God of Israel is unique.
Mhm.
When you're using the term Elohim,
Yeah.
many Jews don't say that.
Mhm.
They say Elohim.
Elohim.
They
yeah.
even omit the hey to a K.
Mhm.
Why? because they know that it has a power in it. They're
The
afraid to.
name.
They're afraid to say it. They say Elohim. Many Jews will say Elohim. You will hear it time and time again in the
Yeah.
news and other places. So because we believe our God is unique. It's not the Nigerian God. It's not the pronunciation of
No,
the.
how do you mean the non-Nigerian?
What I mean is that they may use the same titles for their gods, local gods as well.
No, but they're referring to, if your concept is the majesty of the name
Yeah.
and what is the consciousness of the person mentioning that name. And if the person is referring to, obviously, Nigeria is saying Olua
Yeah.
or Chineke, it's not referring to any deity. He's referring to the sovereign God, the
The sovereign
Almighty
creator.
God, God of Israel. But he does not know Hebrew, or he or she does not know Hebrew.
Okay.
He has not known the Torah, that this is the original Hebrew name
Right,
for
right.
God. So my question is it
In
the
that
same-
context,
Mhm,
in that context,
mhm,
if he's speaking in that context, then yes.
mhm,
Then that is, that's something that he feels and he understands.
mhm.
And he understands it in his language context.
Yeah,
Whereas in the English language context, in here in Great Britain,
yeah.
God is used, frivolously.
Say now a generic word.
Yeah, very frivolously is used
Yeah.
in everything.
Yeah,
So, but in those cultures that you're speaking to,
Yeah.
they are African cultures.
yeah.
They at one time had close affinity with God as well.
God, yeah.
So therefore they have seen, what is Egypt?
Mhm.
African nation,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They saw the actions of God.
Yeah.
So they will not behave like that.
Mhm.
So they remember, again it comes back to times past, how the God of Israel acted, and the people remember. Subsequent generations remember that fame. Therefore when they say it in their language, there's a certain awe about it. They remember that.
Mhm.
But here, I don't think that most British people today,
Mhm.
or Americans if they're watching this program, they will know what that actually means.
Yeah.
Because when you just say God, well, they don't always connect it straight back to the God of Israel.
Israel.
That's the
Is that
problem.
referring to some entity somewhere?
Could be just somebody up there, powerful entity, okay, he's up there, but they may not connect it right back. But when we say it, we connect it right back.
Yeah.
That's why, that's the difference. Probably same with the Nigerians,
Yeah.
same with the Ghanaians, they connect it back. So there is a difference of understanding.
Mm.
The knowledge is different, that's why.
Yeah. So Rabbi, before we run off, how do we worship this God? Because this God has given us rules and regulations. How do we place him? How do we worship him?
Well, God gave us the Torah.
Torah.
And he gave us a written Torah and the oral Torah through Moses. Moses and taught the oral
let
Torah
me catch you. Can you
Yes.
expatiate on that? The written Torah
and the oral
and the
Torah.
oral Torah.
Yes,
What's the difference?
because God, the difference is this, that God told us to do certain things.
Mhm.
Like He's told us to, for instance, slaughter,
Mhm.
circumcision, let's just say circumcision. He told us to circumcise, but how do we circumcise?
Mhm.
What part do we remove of the skin and what part do we keep?
Mhm.
We don't know that with the oral Torah.
Yeah.
So God gave an oral Torah as well to Moses. And Moses, of course, would have known about circumcision from Abraham because he's the one to do it, the first one,
Mhm.
with his family. But then later, let's say God gave Moses to slaughter animals, kosher animals.
Mhm.
Sheep, for instance. How do we sacrifice a sheep? Well, if you go down to the slaughterhouse today,
Mhm.
they'll probably give the sheep, electrocute it maybe.
Yeah.
Here, a cow, they probably will shoot it. They used to shoot it before, and then they used to put a bullet, like a bolt, into the head of the cow.
Mhm.
Well, in the ancient times, we had to know how to do it.
Yeah.
So if I was just going to guess, how do I kill a cow? Well, maybe I should strike the legs and make it fall down first, right? So we wouldn't know without oral Torah. So God gave an oral tradition, oral Torah as well to the elders. And this passed from generation to generation of how to slaughter, what parts to cut, what parts not to cut, what is for us to eat, what is not for us to eat. This is why we believe that is what God wanted us to do. It was given to us, and we therefore subsequently kept it like that. And so that's God's law. Torah is it. Torah is it, and God gave His priesthood to instruct and teach the Torah. And then Moses, being the foreshadow of the priesthood, he then ordained high priest Aaron, his sons, said, okay, now go ahead, start teaching the people. And so we find that from generation to generation that carried out all the way to today as well. Because if you notice that when Daniel was in captivity, in the book of Daniel, it speaks about him being commissioned by the king, and then the king puts all these delicacies in front of him, and he refuses to eat. He said, "I'll just eat lentils." And then the guard says, "Well, if something happens to you, if you're weak, and the king sees you, I'm done for. He'll kill me."
Yeah.
So there's got to be a good reason. And he explained that. He said, "No, my God will favor me. I will eat the lentils, and if I'm not healthy, check me in certain days. If I'm not healthy, then you can tell me to eat the other stuff, then I will. Otherwise, I won't." So therefore, it shows that even Daniel the prophet was keeping kosher laws. Because those days, when people argue about oral Torah, well, if oral Torah didn't exist, how did Daniel know to refuse the wine of the king?
Yeah.
Wouldn't be kosher. How did he know to refuse the meat of the king? Wouldn't be kosher. So therefore, he'd have to know some kind of oral tradition to say, "No, this is not right for me to eat." Otherwise, you see, today you see Jews queuing up at McDonald's.
Yeah.
And they don't, for that very reason. So these things are relevant.
Yeah, as a Jew, you can't even eat any kind of food. You can't even eat McDonald's because of the way the animal is killed.
That's right. The problem is the kosher laws are not applied.
Yeah.
Therefore, it makes it difficult for us to eat from everywhere. You can't do that. Otherwise, you're breaking halakha. In the old times, we're talking about 1st century period and beyond, a little bit beyond that. When people did not keep kosher laws, like if they went to the 1st century McDonald's, after the destruction of the temple, they would be chastised. They would be given 40 stripes.
For
Publicly. In the Jewish community, they will be striped
for disobeying the
for disobeying the dietary laws. Today is not done, but it was done at that time. So the 40 stripes were regulated and given to people who didn't hold to the halakha. So therefore, and then they were shamed in front of everybody. Today we have to do it, not because we're going to be shamed in front of everybody. We're going to be shamed in front of God.
Yeah, I want to please.
I want to please my God. I don't want to be shamed in front of Him. One day I stand before Him and say, "Well, did you do this?" I said, "No, I didn't, because McDonald's was close by and I was feeling hungry. I just went and got some, McD. But I told you this." So it's why it's a little difficult.
Yeah, but something that bothers me is, why is this not written? The oral law is not documented, but rather passed on from rabbi to rabbi.
Originally it was
like the Bible, the Tanakh.
Yeah.
We have the Tanakh documented.
No, it is written. The oral law is written. The Talmud, the 72 volumes are all about the oral law. In the 2nd century CE, we had the Hanasi, Prince Judah Hanasi. He wrote the Mishnah. We have the Mishnah. We then have the Talmud writing. So the oral Torah was coded and written down. Everything.
Okay.
Now, certain commandments that were written in there are later inventions or later creeds. They're not from the earlier times. But nevertheless, everything was written down.
Okay.
Now we believe in that.
Yeah.
We hold to all the commandments are min ha-Torah. We hold to. Those that are not min ha-Torah, for our side, our group, we don't hold to anything outside of min ha-Torah, like Rabbinic Judaism.
Yeah.
A lot of Rabbinic Judaism, the Tachanot, the Gerazim, we don't hold to those because they're not given to Moses.
Yeah.
So therefore we hold to those that our forefathers followed in Babylon and before that.
Okay.
And after that to the destruction of the temple.
Okay. So basically you don't observe rabbinical regulations.
Well, you heard me say the name of Yahweh. There's a rabbinical ban on that.
Yeah.
I do not follow no rabbinical ban. I'm a Kohen. So I tell my people how they can use the name and how they should safeguard it. So therefore the same way, you heard me say Elohim, not Elohim.
Yeah, Elohim. Yeah.
I'm not going to follow no rabbinic ban because that is not given to Moses.
Yeah.
That's invented by the rabbis. And I'm not going to follow rabbis, for my destiny is with the God of Israel, not with the rabbis.
But in the Torah, it said that they sit in the seat of Moses, so the people must listen to them.
The seat of Moses would be, God said, the judges of the day.
Yeah.
But God also said when there's a controversy, go to the Kohen in the gate. But I'm the Kohen in the gate today. So who would you go to?
Yeah.
You'd go to the Kohen in the gate and ask him, should I do this? Should I not do this? Kohen is supposed to instruct you. If a Kohen is not present, you can't find a Kohen, then you can go to the other rabbis and ask.
Yeah.
And they'll put about 50,000, minuses on you, saying you can't do this, you can't do that. They'll stifle you from serving God.
I see. Oh, wonderful. Rabbi Simon Altaf, thanks so much for coming today.
Thank you.
I appreciate your explanation and detailed account you gave about God, who God is, God of Israel, and His name, and how He expects us to relate to Him. Viewers, it is not a child play. God of Israel is the creator of the whole world. He supervised the world. He removed kings and He appointed kings. And we believe that God is the one who appointed Donald Trump, and He can remove him. Wherever you are, I want you to come to this knowledge and understanding that nothing happens on this earth, on this planet, without the permission of Almighty God. He supervised the world. He is in control. When someone dies today, He put a signature on it. So come back to yourself to acknowledge that there is only one God. God had never been two, God had not been three. From the time till today, God, it was stated in Torah, Shema Yisrael Adonai, Eloheinu Adonai Ikar. Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one God. Come back to this knowledge of oneness of God, monotheism. Do not follow the crowd. It is time to study. It is time to seek, because God has hid Himself and He's calling for people to look for Him. He said, if you seek me, you will find me. Let's come back to the knowledge of God of Israel. He's calling all humankind. There are so much going on in the world. Everybody is shaking. People are worried. The end has come. The end is just at the corner. When will you go? When you drop dead today? When something happened to you today? Listen to me. Death is not the end. Death is the beginning. When you sign off from this earth, you die. It is just a beginning of new life. Let's try to prepare ourselves for the next world. And we can only do that by going back to Torah. It's just like buying a mobile phone. Every product has got a manual. The manual tells you that this is how you use this product. This is the number of hours you charge it. Do not use it this way. Do not use it that way. If you go by the manual, that product will last for you. But if you don't go by the manual, you use it anyhow, you can abuse the product. Because if you don't know the purpose of a product, you can easily abuse it. Torah is our manual for life. Let us get back to Torah if we want to live a good life. If we want to please God so that we can get the next world, Olam Haba, then we must go back to Torah. If you know that you have any connection to God of Israel, obviously we human or we came from Him. But there are few who are privileged, and I thank God always that I know Him. And you who is listening to me, for the fact that you can watch this program is an indication that you have a love for God of Israel. God is calling you today. Get back to Torah, and your life will not be the same. This is your brother, Pastor Divine Dove, with my Rabbi Simon Altaf, a very renowned international speaker, resounding speaker, a Persian Jew from Pakistan. God bless you once again. Until we come your way again, Baruch Adonai Leolam, Amen via Amen. Shalom.
Shalom.